Welcome to the Inspired Muslim, a place where faith finds its voice and the stories of the prophets come alive to strengthen our hearts. In today's world, where doubts and distractions surround us, it's easy to lose sight of what true surrender to Allah really means. But then there are stories that reignite our belief, stories that show us what it looks like to trust Allah completely, even when everything seems uncertain. And among all those stories, one name shines brighter than most: Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. His life was not one of ease or comfort. It was a life built on tests that would shake most hearts, but instead revealed the power of complete faith. He stood up against his entire nation when they turned to idols. He faced the blazing fire of King Namrud without fear. He left his wife Hajar and infant son Ismail alone in a barren desert, trusting only in Allah's mercy. And when commanded to sacrifice that very son he had prayed for, he raised the knife, not out of cruelty, but out of love and obedience to his Creator. These moments weren't just ancient events. They were timeless lessons in what it means to believe. Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, didn't just say he trusted Allah. He lived it. His story shows us that real faith begins when the heart lets go of control and chooses surrender instead. It's through him that we learn how patience, obedience, and love for Allah can turn even the harshest trials into blessings. His faith became a legacy, one that still defines us today. Every prayer we make, every Hajj we perform, every act of sacrifice during Eid al-Adha, they all trace back to him. Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, is remembered as Khalilullah, the friend of Allah, because his love and trust were complete. So today, we're diving deep into his story. Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, the ultimate test of faith and surrender. Together we'll explore his journey, his trials, and the powerful lessons that still guide every believer who chooses faith over fear. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to The Inspired Muslim, where every story is a reminder that faith is not just something we say, it's something we live. Imagine standing in a world where almost everyone around you believes in something false, where idols made of stone are treated as gods, where silence feels safer than truth. Now imagine being the one person brave enough to say, "No, I will only worship Allah, the one who created me." That's where the story of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, begins. Not with comfort or power, but with questions, courage, and faith so strong that it shook an entire kingdom. From the time he was young, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, looked at the world and saw something everyone else ignored. He saw people bowing to statues they made with their own hands, calling out to gods who could not see, hear, or help them. His heart couldn't accept that. He questioned, he reflected, and he searched. Not for fame, not for proof, but for truth. This story isn't just history, it's a mirror, because every one of us faces moments like Ibrahim, peace be upon him, did. Moments where belief is easy, but surrender is hard. When life tests you, when Allah's plan doesn't make sense, when your heart says why, but your faith says trust. Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, went through that again and again. He was tested by his people, by fire, by separation, by the command to sacrifice what he loved most. Yet in every trial, his answer was the same: I submit to the will of Allah. His journey is not just about obedience, it's about love. A love so pure that nothing could stand between him and his Creator. The kind of faith that doesn't bargain, doesn't doubt, and doesn't run away when things get hard. And because of that surrender,
legacy that still lives with us today in our prayers, our Hajj, and our celebration of Eid al-Adha. His story is woven into the
heart of Islam itself. So in this video, we'll dive deep into the story of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. From his search for the truth, to his battle with the people of false gods, to the moment he proved that faith means trusting Allah, even when the test feels impossible. Because sometimes the greatest act of faith is not asking, why me? But saying, Ya Allah, I trust you. Have you ever stood at a crossroads where your heart ached, but you still whispered, I trust you, Allah? That's where the story of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, begins, in the space between love and surrender. He lived in a world drowning in idol worship, where people bowed to what they carved, prayed to what couldn't hear or speak. Yet even as a young man, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, looked beyond what his eyes could see. He questioned what others accepted. He searched for meaning, for truth, for the one who truly deserved his worship. And that search, that courage to ask, who is my Lord, led him to the greatest journey of faith ever told. But his tests didn't stop there. His own people turned against him. He was thrown into a blazing fire. He was commanded to leave his family in an empty desert, and the ultimate test, to sacrifice his beloved son, came when his heart was most full. Each time he chose submission over fear. He chose trust over doubt. And each time, Allah raised him higher. His story is not just about belief, it's about complete surrender. A love for Allah so deep that nothing else came first. That's why his legacy still lives on, in our prayers, in Hajj, in Eid al-Adha, and in every Muslim heart that says, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Early life and search for truth. Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, was born into a society that had forgotten Allah. Everywhere he looked, people bowed to idols, lifeless stones decorated with gold and silver, believed to bring rain, success, or healing. His own father, Azar, was a maker of these idols. He carved them, sold them, and taught others to worship them. But even as a child, Ibrahim's heart felt something was wrong. He watched people plead with statues that couldn't move, couldn't hear, couldn't speak. He'd see them polish the idols in the morning and pray to them by night. And he knew deep inside, this can't be God. One evening he looked up at the sky, at the stars shining above him. For a moment he thought, could this be my Lord? But when the stars faded, he whispered, I do not love things that set. Then came the moon, glowing bright, guiding the night. But when it too disappeared, he said, if my Lord does not guide me, I will surely be among those astray. Finally the sun rose, magnificent, powerful, radiant. Yet as it sank beneath the horizon, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, realized what his heart already knew. Everything that rises and falls cannot be the Creator. That was the moment truth dawned in him. He said, indeed, I have turned my face toward him who created the heavens and the earth, inclining only toward him, and I am not of those who associate others with Allah. From that day, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, devoted himself to calling his people back to the oneness of Allah, Tawheed. He didn't shout or condemn, he reasoned with them gently. He asked his father, O my father, why do you worship what can neither hear nor see nor benefit you at all? But his father turned away, angry and stubborn. The people laughed at him, dismissing his words. They were too proud to admit they were wrong. Yet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, stood firm, alone but never lonely, because Allah was with him. He wasn't afraid to walk against the crowd. He wasn't afraid to question generations of false belief. He trusted that the truth, even if it made him an outcast, was still worth standing for. And that faith, that quiet courage, would soon lead him into the first of many tests that would shape his destiny forever. Even standing nearby was impossible. They tied Ibrahim, peace be upon him, ready to cast him in. And in that moment, surrounded by flames and hatred, his heart remained steady. He didn't beg. He didn't panic. He whispered, "Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa huwa, alayhi tawakkaltu, wa huwa rabbul arshil azim." Allah is sufficient for me. There is no God but Him. I trust Him, the Lord of the mighty throne. What happened next was a miracle, one that would shake their faith forever. The fire test. The fire was ready, fierce, roaring, and higher than the trees. Its flames danced wildly, lighting up the sky like a storm of fury. The people gathered from every corner of the land just to witness it. Their anger had blinded them. They believed this fire would destroy Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, that it would silence his call to the truth once and for all. They tied him tightly with ropes, hands and feet bound. Even getting close enough to throw him in was impossible because of the heat. So they built a massive catapult, a device to launch him straight into the heart of the fire. And there he stood, alone before a sea of flames, yet calmer than those who condemned him. The angels rushed to him, asking if they should help. But Ibrahim, peace be upon him, his heart overflowing with trust, said, "If it is from you, I do not need it. But if it is from Allah, then He is enough for me." Subhanallah. That's the kind of faith that doesn't flinch, the kind that believes Allah's plan is mercy, even when it looks like fire. As he was thrown into the blaze, Allah, Estuati, gave a single command that changed everything. "O fire, be coolness and safety for Ibrahim." Surah Al-Anbiya 21:69. In an instant the fire lost its power. Its flames turned gentle. Its heat became peace. Where the people saw destruction, Allah made a garden. The ropes burned away, but not his skin, not his clothes, not even a hair on his head. When the crowd looked again, they couldn't believe their eyes. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, was standing in the middle of the fire, unharmed, surrounded by green grass and flowers blooming around him. Allah had turned what was meant to destroy him into a sign of His protection. Imagine that moment. The people who mocked him now stunned into silence. The same ones who built the fire, now trembling in awe. They had seen a miracle with their own eyes, yet many of their hearts still refused to believe. But Ibrahim, peace be upon him, didn't need their approval. His heart was already full of something greater, the peace that comes from total trust in Allah. From that day, he knew, when you surrender completely to Allah, the fire can't burn you, the storm can't shake you, and no enemy can break you. This was just one of the many tests that proved his title, Khalilullah, the friend of Allah. 4. Migration for the Sake of Allah. After the miracle of the fire, Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, had proven his faith before his people. They saw the truth with their own eyes, yet most still refused to believe. Their hearts were hardened by pride, their eyes blinded by arrogance. And so Ibrahim, peace be upon him, made a choice, one of the hardest any believer can make. He decided to leave his home, his people, and everything familiar behind, all for the sake of Allah. This migration, hijrah, wasn't just a journey across land. It was a journey of the soul. Every step away from his homeland was a step closer to Allah. He walked with peace in his heart, knowing that when you walk for Allah, you never walk alone. He was joined by his devoted wife Sarah, peace be upon him, and later Hajar, peace be upon him. Together they traveled through lands and kingdoms, carrying nothing but faith and hope. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, spread the message of Tawheed wherever he went, reminding people that there is only one Creator and that worship belongs to Him alone. The challenge with his people. Once Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, had found the truth, he couldn't stay silent anymore. His heart burned with conviction, the kind that can't be hidden behind fear or comfort. He began speaking to his people openly, calling them to abandon their idols and worship only Allah. He stood in the middle of their marketplace, surrounded by idols of every shape and size. People were buying them, bowing to them, whispering their wishes into cold stone. And Ibrahim, peace be upon him, spoke out, "What are these statues to which you are so devoted?" The crowd froze. Some mocked him, others grew angry. But Ibrahim, peace be upon him, kept going, calm, confident, his voice steady. "They can neither benefit you nor harm you. Do you not think?" His words pierced through the noise, but pride is a thick wall. The leaders of his people, including his father Azar, tried to silence him. They said, "You have insulted our gods. If you don't stop, we will punish you." Still, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, didn't step back. He tried to open their eyes through reason and reflection. He spoke of Allah, the one who gives life and death, the one who created the heavens and the earth, not these man-made figures. But their hearts were closed. So Ibrahim, peace be upon him, decided to show them the truth in a way they couldn't ignore. One day, when everyone left for a festival, he walked quietly into the temple. The idols stood tall and silent before him. He looked at them one by one, lifeless, powerless, yet worshipped by thousands. With the strength of his faith, he raised an axe and shattered them one after another, leaving only the biggest idol untouched. Then he placed the axe on its shoulder and walked away. When the people returned, they were horrified. "Who has done this to our gods?" they shouted. Someone whispered, "Ibrahim. He's the one who speaks against them." They brought him forward and demanded an answer. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, looked at them and said, "Ask the biggest one. Maybe he did it." His words struck like lightning. They turned to the large idol, realizing the truth. Of course it couldn't have done anything. It couldn't move, speak, or act. For a moment they were silent, faces heavy with guilt. But pride once again blinded them. Instead of admitting the truth, they grew furious. They decided he must be punished. Their anger boiled into cruelty, and soon the command was given, "Burn him alive." The people gathered wood for days, building the largest fire they had ever seen, so hot that through deserts and valleys, through silence and loneliness, he kept his mission alive. And wherever he went, Allah blessed his path, turning his exile into elevation. Even though he had no army, no wealth, and no home to call his own, Allah made his name greater than kings. His story reminds us that sometimes walking away from what's wrong is how you walk toward what's right. Years passed. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, grew older, yet his faith never weakened. And just when he thought his journey had settled into peace, Allah tested him again. But this time, in a different way. After years of longing and prayer, Allah blessed him with a child, Ismail, peace be upon him, through Hajar, peace be upon him. It was a gift beyond imagination, given in his old age when hope seemed impossible. For Ibrahim, peace be upon him, this child was not just a son. He was joy, mercy, and answered dua all in one. But this blessing would soon become the next test, the most heart-wrenching of all. Because the true test of love is not in receiving, but in what you're willing to give up for Allah. 5. The gift of children and the ultimate test of sacrifice. After years of patience and prayer, Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, was finally blessed with what his heart had longed for, a son, Ismail, peace be upon him. It was a miracle. He had prayed for years, even when logic said it was too late, even when age had taken his strength. Yet Allah never forgets the hearts that wait with faith. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, and his wife Hajar, peace be upon him, held this child as a symbol of Allah's mercy, a reminder that hope, no matter how delayed, always arrives in its perfect time. But with every blessing comes a test, and this one would test Ibrahim's, peace be upon him, heart more deeply than ever before. When Ismail, peace be upon him, grew old enough to walk beside his father, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, had a dream, one so clear, so powerful, that he knew it was a command from Allah. In that dream, he was told to sacrifice his son. For a father, this was beyond comprehension. The very child he had begged for, the one who filled his old age with laughter and warmth, was now being asked of him in sacrifice. But Ibrahim, peace be upon him, didn't dismiss the dream. Prophets know when Allah commands, it carries truth. The next morning, with a heart heavy but steady, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, went to his son. He didn't hide the dream or soften the truth. He said, "O my dear son, indeed I have seen in a dream that I must sacrifice you. So tell me, what do you think?" Surah As-Safat 37:102. Imagine that moment. A father's eyes filled with tears, a son's heart full of faith. And yet, Ismail, peace be upon him, young, innocent, pure, looked at his father and said with calm strength, "O my father, do as you are commanded. You will find me, if Allah wills, among the patient." This was no ordinary family. This was faith in its truest form, a father and son, both surrendering to Allah's will. They walked together to the place of sacrifice. Every step echoed with trust. When they reached the spot, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, laid his son down, his hands trembling, but his heart firm. He placed the knife upon his beloved's neck, ready to do what Allah had commanded. But just as he was about to carry it out, a voice called from the heavens, "O Ibrahim, you have fulfilled the vision." Surah As-Safat 37:104-105. Allah had accepted his obedience. The test was complete. In place of Ismail, peace be upon him, Allah sent a magnificent ram to be sacrificed instead. That moment became eternal, a symbol of submission that would echo through time, remembered every year by millions of Muslims during Eid al-Adha. It wasn't the act of sacrifice that mattered most. It was the heart behind it, the readiness to give up what you love most for the one who gave it to you. Prophet Ibrahim to call mankind to pilgrimage, Hajj. Though he wondered how people would hear his call, Allah assured him that it would reach hearts across the world. And indeed, to this day, millions respond to that call every year. The Kaaba, a simple cube-shaped structure made of stone, became the spiritual center of Islam. It represents unity, as Muslims around the world face it in prayer, regardless of race, color, or status. Over the centuries, it has been rebuilt and repaired many times, but its sacred purpose has never changed. The building of the Kaaba reminds believers of the importance of obedience, sincerity, and legacy. How small acts done for Allah can echo across generations. 7. Legacy of faith and surrender. The legacy of faith and surrender left by Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, and his family stands as one of the most powerful examples in human history. It wasn't just about their words or rituals. It was about complete submission to Allah's will, even when the path seemed impossible to understand. Every test they faced, from leaving Hajar and baby Ismail in the desert, to the near sacrifice of his son, to rebuilding the Kaaba, became a living lesson in trust, patience, and obedience. This legacy lives on in the very heart of Islam. The word Islam itself means submission, and Ibrahim's life is the ultimate embodiment of that word. His story reminds believers that faith isn't proven in comfort, but in sacrifice, in choosing Allah's command over one's own desire. Because of this unwavering devotion, Allah made Ibrahim the leader of mankind and made his lineage blessed with prophets and guidance. Every year, during Hajj, millions of Muslims retrace his steps, walking where he walked, praying where he prayed, and performing the rites that honor his obedience. The act of Qurbani, sacrifice, during Eid al-Adha also commemorates his willingness to sacrifice his beloved son purely out of submission to Allah's will. This legacy teaches that true faith is not passive. It requires surrender, trust, and action. It's about believing that Allah's wisdom is greater than our understanding, and that surrendering to Him is not a loss of control, but a gain of peace. Ibrahim's story still whispers a timeless truth, that the heart finds strength when it bows to the one who created it. 8. Lessons from Prophet Ibrahim's, peace be upon him. Life, Prophet Ibrahim's, peace be upon him, story isn't just history, it's a mirror. Every test he faced holds a lesson that still speaks to us today. His life teaches that real faith begins when comfort ends. When everything seems uncertain, that's where trust in Allah truly shines. The first lesson is unshakable belief in one God. Even as a young man surrounded by idol worship, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, refused to follow blindly. He questioned, he reflected, and he stood alone against his entire community, proving that truth is worth standing for, even if you're the only one standing. The second lesson is trust in Allah's plan, no matter how unclear it feels. When Allah commanded him to leave Hajar and baby Ismail in the barren desert, there was no hesitation, only faith. That moment reminds us that Allah never abandons those who trust Him, because from that empty desert came Zamzam, and from that small family came a nation of believers. The third lesson is obedience and sacrifice. When Allah asked him to sacrifice his beloved son, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, didn't argue. He surrendered. That moment was never about the sacrifice itself. It was about proving that love for Allah outweighs every earthly attachment. The fourth lesson is patience and hope. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, waited decades for a child, yet he never gave up dua. His story shows that delay is not denial. Allah's timing is perfect, even when it tests your heart. And finally, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, teaches leadership through submission. True leadership in faith is not about power or pride, but humility, being the first to obey and the last to give up. His example continues to shape every Muslim prayer, every Hajj journey, and every act of trust in Allah. Prophet Ibrahim's, peace be upon him, entire life echoes one message. When you surrender to Allah completely, you don't lose anything. You gain everything that truly matters. As we reach the end of Prophet Ibrahim's, peace be upon him, story, one truth stands out. Faith isn't proven by words, it's revealed through surrender. Every trial he faced, whether it was walking into fire, leaving his family in the desert, or preparing to sacrifice his son, showed that belief means trusting Allah even when the outcome is hidden. His story isn't about pain or loss, it's about love, pure love for the Creator that overcomes fear, logic, and attachment. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, didn't worship Allah because life was easy. He worshipped Him because he knew that life without Allah meant nothing. And that's what true faith looks like. Not perfection, but complete reliance on the One who never fails His servants. Today, we still live in the shade of His faith. Every time a Muslim prays, we send blessings upon him and his family. Every year during Hajj, millions walk the same paths he once walked, reminding the world that his obedience changed history. And every time someone chooses Allah's command over their own desires, they continue Ibrahim's legacy. His life reminds us that surrender isn't weakness. It's the deepest strength. It's the peace that comes from knowing that whatever Allah wills, it's always for the best. So whenever life tests you, remember Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. Remember the fire that became cool, the desert that gave water, and the knife that never fell. Allah never lets down those who trust Him completely. This is the Inspired Muslim. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. May Allah bless us with faith as strong, love as pure, and surrender as complete as Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. Ameen.